Today we're going to look back on February and I'm going to show you how I do my monthly review just like I did this one for January. Hey y'all, Beth here with Dots and Beyond. Thank you for stopping by as we check out how I set up my review pages in my bullet journal. Now, I used to not do monthly reviews, but like many of us, this pandemic over the last year has made me kind of lose track of time. To combat that phenomenon, I did create this January review page in my bullet journal just to highlight professional, personal, and global events that took place throughout the month. As you can see, I like to keep it in the color palette that I'm using for the month, and I use a combination of drawings, doodles, different fonts just to liven up the page a little and make it a little more artistic than some of the other pages around it. It is definitely a more free flow, less rigid style, and I like that, so we are going to continue and set up February. As you can see, I have everything pre-sketched out in pencil ready to go. My fierce fictional female for February was Lorraine from Atomic Blonde, and I will definitely link that in the cards above if you haven't seen that setup. Sketching did take a little bit of time, but from pen to paper, this only takes me about 30 minutes. I try to keep my supplies limited, and I will definitely link all of those below. But I do have my Pigma Micron 0.05, which is my favorite, as well as all of my other Pigma Microns on standby just in case I need them. This first doodle I'm going to tackle is an up arrow with the words "Raise My Worth." This is a particular momentous occasion for me because I did ask for a raise. I do have a full-time job. I asked for a raise and I got it plus a little bit more. And so that's just a reminder for myself to always know what my worth is and to keep that in the forefront of my mind in my working career. In conjunction with that up arrow on the left is a small down arrow on the right, which is again a professional indicator as I turned down a job offer that was offered to me this month. It was a difficult decision, but it was definitely the right decision. As I said, I do like to have a mix of personal, professional, and global in my monthly review. Those two examples are definitely on the professional side of things. The rest of my professional life does live in a separate bullet journal. I do have those setups here on YouTube as well, so I'll definitely link one of those up in the cards for you if you want to see how my professional journal differs from my personal journal. And then COVID-19 continues to be a part of our lives, unfortunately. So here at the top, I'm just doing a little doodle of the COVID virus and writing next to it too many variants because I don't like how many variants there are popping up around the world. Below the COVID doodle, I am getting a little bit political with a good old-fashioned movie clapperboard that reads Impeach 45 Take 2. Of course, that trial ended in another acquittal, which I do disagree with. So I did write cowards and time for criminal charges. And some silver just to stay within the color palette that I have used all month. Now I am going to do this little heart on the corner of a Scrabble tile. That Scrabble tile will be an F with a point value of 14, obviously, which is not the point value of an F in Scrabble, but it does stand for February 14th. My eldest son and I ended up playing Scrabble together all evening for Valentine's Day. And of course, I would much rather spend time with family anyway. Next to that Scrabble tile, I am drawing a tiny little NASA rocket and a circle representing Mars. I'll put the number 18 in here to indicate the day that Perseverance landed on the surface of Mars and began sending back the amazing pictures that it is sending back from the surface of that planet. Below the Scrabble tile, I will sketch out a whale. This is to indicate the new species of whale that was discovered in the Gulf of Mexico and is already listed as critically endangered since we did not know this species existed, and that is the Rice's whale. If you can't tell, I'm pretty fascinated by science and new discoveries. In the top right corner, I am going to draw 2 racing flags to indicate essentially my sanity saver over not just the month of February, but pretty much throughout this entire pandemic, and that is RuPaul's Drag Race. And of course, right now there are 2 seasons of RuPaul airing simultaneously. There is the US season, which is airing, as well as the second edition of RuPaul's Drag Race UK. Along with the flags, I will also doodle a little silver crown just to represent all of the queens. This is probably one of the elements that took me the longest just because I had to take in the time to color all of the checkers on my flags. But the pink with checkered flags is such an iconic RuPaul visual. In a tiny doodle below RuPaul and next to Mars Perseverance is a television with the word Sequest next to it. I did find that the 3 seasons of Sequest, a television show from the early 2000s, was streaming on NBC Peacock and decided to rewatch all of that show. And of course, I could not let February go by without recognizing Black History Month here in the United States. It's definitely a month that we should all take time to pause and learn as much about Black history in this country as we can. I chose to commemorate this month by finally listening to the audiobook of Michelle Obama's Becoming. Listening to her story in her own words and her own voice was definitely one of the best decisions I have made when it comes to audiobooks. I did give it 5 stars. There will be more information that I definitely jot down in my reading journal. I find she and Barack together to just be wildly inspiring. And then, of course, there were particular moments and passages that also resonated personally with me, from the moment that her father died to the moment she first lands in Nairobi in Kenya to go meet Barack's grandmother. If you've watched my channel before, you know that I grew up in Kenya and I do consider it to be home, even though I haven't been back in quite some time. And there were just moments throughout the book and their rise to public office that are just crazy inspiring, and I think anyone should read it. February is also the month where the death toll from COVID in the United States passed 500,000. So I did put in this small tombstone just to mark that moment of this terrible pandemic that's been with us now for a year. And then next to it is a tiny doodle of the Eiffel Tower to mark the United States rejoining the Paris Agreement on climate change. That's another one of those things that I do feel very passionate about, having grown up in Africa and watched what climate change is doing to the homeland that I love so much, as well as to the rest of the globe. Speaking of climate change, I do live in the southern United States, and we do not typically get large winter storms in this part of the country anymore. They were something that used to take place in the past. But we had between February 12th and 17th, off and on, particularly around the 16th and 17th, just a ridiculous amount of snow for this particular part of the country. Again, having grown up on the equator, I am not a fan of the cold. I am not a fan of the snow, but I couldn't let it go by without marking it. So here I am drawing a very large snowflake with the dates that those snowstorms took place. And the words inside that snowflake simply read, "Just stop snowing." I can safely say that the ice and snow is a very large determining factor as to why I do not live near or around Chicago or New York or Wyoming or any other place where it gets ridiculously cold. I always have a touch of homesickness, but during this particular February, all I really wanted to do was go back to Kenya where it was warm. Another big news story in February is that of Jeff Bezos stepping down from the company that he built, obviously that being Amazon. So I am sketching in an Amazon smile here, checking the other page just to make sure it's not bleeding through. And in it, I will write Lex Luthor, and then I will draw a set of steps and write steps down. I do sort of equate Jeff Bezos to the fictional Lex Luthor. He strikes me as the same type of individual. Not that I don't appreciate that Amazon can get things to my door very, very quickly, because sometimes I do. But if you can, please try to shop local. Below that, I am finishing off that doodle of me turning down the job that was offered to me this month. This is actually the second time it was offered it to me. They offered me the role back in January and then came back and asked me to take it again in February. And I turned them down again, but it was the right decision and I have no regrets. Below that, I am putting in an American football with L and V on the opposite sides to indicate what year of the Super Bowl this was, and that Tampa Bay won that Super Bowl this year. Here down the right side, I am putting the date of February 24th and a swoozy arrow going down the side. I did have a little bit of an emotional crash on that day. One of the things I've not talked about very much on my channel is that I do live with bipolar disorder. And I have great days most of the time, and I do keep it fairly regulated, but on that particular day, I had a not so great day. Stay tuned for more mental health related bullet journal spreads, because those are definitely coming. And then next to that, I drew a little thumbs down with the date of the 26th in it. That's when our governor lifted most of the pandemic restrictions, which I definitely don't agree with. And then next to that is a tiny version of a Golden Globe. The Golden Globes were, of course, hosted in February. The only indicator I put as to shows was a $sign on the end of globes to indicate that Schitt's Creek took home the Golden Globe for Best Comedy Television Show. And then just as a little funny comedy pun, I am drawing this alligator snout. As we found out during all of our ice and snow, that alligators turn into little popsicles and stick their noses out of the ice. In a year's time, I might not even remember that that is a little alligator nose, and that's the fun of sort of doing that type of surprise doodle in my review. I did decide this bottom right corner needed a little bit more of the pink color to balance it out, so I am bringing that in on the football, and then that is it. Alright, here we are, my final February review. From asking for my worth at work to reading Michelle Obama's book, and then our terrible snowstorm. Here are the highlights. professional, personal, and global that took place during the month of February. I will definitely link all of these supplies in the description box below. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye-bye.